Hello there and welcome to not only a new episode but a new unit of Quick History. Today we're going to start looking at our democracy and dictatorship course, looking at the growth of Nazi Germany and the rise of Adolf Hitler. And we're going to begin by going all the way back to the First World War and address the impact of the First World War on Germany. As always, there is a free handout in the description. Click on subscribe if you like what you see. Let's get into the details. Germany was blockaded by Britain during the First World War. If you're unsure about the naval blockade, I'll put a link to a video in the description from a previous set of videos which talk about the war at sea and address the naval blockade during the First World War. But, as I mentioned, Germany was blockaded by Britain during the First World War. Because Germany couldn't import food, couldn't import medicine, and couldn't import clothing, the German population suffered quite dramatically during the First World War. And by 1918, Germany was close to collapse. The German people were short of food, they were short of the most basic provisions when it comes to healthcare, and they were short of clothing and the basic essentials of life. Weak with poor diet and weak from lack of food, the Germans begin to suffer a devastating flu epidemic at the end of the war. And as well as suffering this flu epidemic, the Germans were losing on the battlefield. The German army in 1918 is being pushed back by the French, the British and the American armies, and Germany is almost in full retreat. The German commanders tell the German Kaiser that the war cannot be won. The Kaiser understands that this is a severe issue for him because he took Germany into the war. He would like the war to continue. The German commanders make it very clear that that's not going to be the case. Evidence we've got of why that's not going to be the case comes in 1918 at a place called Kiel. Now, in Kiel, the German Navy were ordered to leave the port and ordered to attack the British. And they refused to do so. They did what we would call mutiny. They refused to follow orders. Now, what would traditionally happen to a mutineer is they would be shot for treason or for cowardice. However, in this case, because it was the entire navy, Germany couldn't do that. And more worryingly for the Kaiser, who was desperate for the war to continue, German workers and German factory workers who were producing the weapons and producing the equipment for people to fight the war for Germany, they go on strike. They refuse to go to work. They refuse to make any materials which may be of benefit to the war effort. This leaves the Kaiser in a very difficult position. He wants the war to continue. His navy are refusing to follow orders, the German people in the factories are refusing to go to work, and his own commanders have told him that the war is not winnable. The Kaiser therefore takes a fateful decision. He decides that he's going to abdicate, he's going to leave his throne and flee to the Netherlands. Germany is left without a leader. The Weimar Government, a group of politicians, are gathered together to form the new German government. And the first thing that the Weimar government do is they seek peace with Britain, France and America and an end to the First World War. Now this was troublesome, and there are four really key effects that we're going to have to look at of this armistice. The first effect is Germany is bankrupt as a result of the war. The war had been fought on money which they'd managed to borrow from other countries, and now the war was over, they were going to have to pay it back. That was going to prove tremendously difficult because many of their men who could make things to sell and to make money from had either been killed or wounded on the battlefields, and all of their industry had been dedicated to war production. It would take time before Germany could get back on its feet and begin trading with other people around the world. The second thing is Germany was divided. Germany is a tremendously divided country. Factory owners who'd been given lots of money from the German government, well, they were very wealthy, but the workers were not. This divide in Germany becomes very, very serious because the wages that people were being paid were very poor, and many men returning from the war were tremendously unhappy about the growing role of women in factories and the growing divide between the rich and the poor. Germany, and your third problem is Germany was unstable. This new Weimar government that's just sought peace and an end to the war, yes, they're a government that's been formed, but they're not the most stable of governments. And with the army and the navy and the workers in mutiny, Germany was going to have to say, well, who is going to rule Germany next, and how is Germany going to be ruled? And those decisions needed to be made in 1918. And the final issue, and maybe the most important when we talk about the rise of the Nazi Party as we look through the cause, is that Germany might have lost the war, but they were never defeated on the battlefield. There was never a moment during the First World War where Germany or their army was completely destroyed. This led to a feeling of what we call the stab in the back myth, which I'm going to talk more about in a future video. But there were many people in Germany who felt that the Weimar government, by signing the armistice, had sold the German army short. The German army was still fighting in November 1918. They'd never been defeated. So why did they sign the armistice, bringing an end to the war? That question was going to bring stability to Germany for the next 20 years. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the 5 key reasons why Germany was unstable between 1918 and 1923. Make sure you get your free handout in the description. Make sure you click on subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.